Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another great episode of the Van Buren Variety Show. I am Bob Van Buren, your host for the next hour. Congratulations to all of our newcomers that have discovered the show. Don't want to forget y'all. And for those of you that are new, watching this either live or much later on, variety is the word here. Every week, I have an individual guest on to talk about an interesting topic. It might be their profession. They might have some musical entertainment, might have a how-to segment, or just something that they're interested in, or had research on, maybe an interesting hobby. So you never know what you're going to get. So please, if you are new and if you haven't done it already, hit that subscribe button. I sure would appreciate that. And also, if you like tonight's guest, you like tonight's topic, there is that like button there. And feel free to share this episode too if you like. So again, welcome to all my regulars and welcome to all the newcomers as well. Have a quick public service announcement, and my guest will be able to reiterate that as well. I want to say a special shout out to the YouTube channel Texas Front Porch. Some of you know that for the past year, not only have I been broadcasting on my own channel, which is Van Buren Variety, the folks at Texas Front Porch have allowed me to simulcast on their channel as well. But, you know, good things have to come to an end. I have my own channel. It is a variety show. And so I wish them the best of luck. Dispel the rumors. There's been no problems. There's been no fighting. You know how the rumors go. No. Tex is my brother. He's been my brother for over 40 years. And all the people that are over there at that channel, I appreciate them letting me come on. But technically, my channel is a variety show, so it doesn't actually fit into the format of their channel. But again, I have brought in so many people, and some of you watching right now saw me on Texas Front Porch and have since subscribed to Van Buren Variety. So I appreciate you staying on, and it won't be the last you'll see me on Texas Front Porch. I'll be co-hosting sometime if y'all can put up with me another channel, and you'll probably see people from Texas Front Porch here, which you will tonight. Someone that you know and love from that channel has their own channel too, called Blondes and Boos. So without further ado, let me bring my special guest on tonight.
Hey.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brandi. Y'all would know her from her channel, Blondes and Boos, and also Texas Front Porch. So, Brandi, welcome to the Van Buren Variety Show.
I am so happy to be here. It's been a few since I've been here, so I'm excited. I am excited. And I just want to shout out to my mom. She's in chat. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom. How you doing?
I saw her. She said, "Evening, y'all." I was like, yeah, that's her.
Well, let's just kind of talk about, we have some experiences, ladies and gentlemen. We got some hauntings to talk about, some paranormal experiences to talk about from me and her. But listen, I want to kind of promote your channel first, Brandi. You have a podcast called Blondes and Boos Paranormal Podcast. I mean, the name alone should tell people what it's about, but kind of tell us about your channel.
Well, of course, our channel is about anything unknown, and I can't stress that enough, unknown. So that is paranormal, that's cryptid, that's UFO, anything that you don't have answers for. Well, we don't either. So we just like to talk about it.
So anything you want to talk about on that channel, if it's paranormal?
Well, you know, like I said, we just try to do, again, like a variety, kind of like you do here. We like to do a variety and break it up and talk about anything. I mean, we've had people talk about black-eyed kids, you know, just forest people, the fae, you name it. We're out there. Even had a show on hellhounds once. So
Hellhounds. Oh, I bet that was an interesting episode.
It sure was. I learned a lot that night.
Well, so ladies and gentlemen, those of you that are watching us and are not aware of her channel, especially to you newcomers, I'm going to put this in my chat, but I'm also going to display it for everybody here. So ladies and gentlemen, I would encourage you, if you love Van Buren Variety, go to Brandi's channel. There it is right there in chat, Blondes and Boos Paranormal Podcast. And it's a very, very interesting show because, well, I don't want to say everybody, but I would say most everybody's had some sort of, haunting, ghostly, paranormal experience.
Some type of experience, yes. Even if it's from you might hear your name, just out of the blue, you hear your name, or like you're like, "Where's my keys? Where's my keys?" And then you hear a voice. They're over there. They're on the table. They're on the counter. It's kind of like those things. A lot of people pass them off as just voices in their head, but sometimes they're not.
Right. And I told you a story similar to that about finding things, and
Yes.
I'll share with everybody on there. And again, I shared Blondes and Booze, ladies and gentlemen, but also I want to give a special shout out to this YouTube channel. Wonderful channel, wonderful people there. If you haven't already, look this up on YouTube, Texas Front Porch. And in a way, they're kind of a variety channel too. They don't.
Yes.
They talk about multiple subjects there, so very interesting subjects and very subjects I know that you'll be educated on because I watched the show and I watched Blondes and Booze, and there's things I'm like, you know what? Either I didn't think about that, never knew about that, so go check out their channel as well.
Right. And plus with me being his co-host on Mondays, I get a double, well, a triple dose actually, a triple dose of all the, weird and
Right.
unknown things. Um, but we are on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Central, and then we're also Blondes, Booze, and the Woo, which is on Friday nights at 8 p.m. Central. So you can catch us twice a week, and you can catch me on Texas Front Porch on Mondays at 8 p.m. Central also.
Absolutely. And in chat right now, I see Bigfoot Michigan Rob. And
Yes.
BMR, if you can put something in chat when your show is on, the name of your show, I will definitely post it during our conversation here. So,
Oh
ladies and
yeah.
I would definitely want you to check Bigfoot Michigan Rob. He's got a very interesting show as well.
Yeah,
Well,
he does. The funny thing is he does two shows a week, and his
hmm
is Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Central is Beyond BMR,
yes.
and he gets into all these different topics, and some I'm like, I never even thought of that,
Yeah, hey, really.
and yeah, and it's amazing to really watch that. And on Thursdays at 12 p.m. Central, I catch him on Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob. I have lunch between 12 and 12:30, so I can catch about 20 minutes of his show. And I'm always like, dang, I don't want to shut it off, but
Right.
I
And
gotta go back to work.
he's had some great guests on there as well.
Yeah, yeah. And unfortunately, we were all streaming through, including yourself. I mean, we were all streaming through Texas Front Porch, but
Absolutely.
none of us are streaming through there anymore. So you'll have to go to each and every one's separate channels and like and subscribe and hit the notification button. But you'll still be able to see all the same shows. You'll just have to go to each channel separately. That's all.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to it. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like variety, don't just think Van Buren Variety is it. You have all these other channels you can get all kinds of information on. So, make sure you check those out as well.
Awesome.
Well, Brandi, I want to just hand it over to you. You've got a haunting slash paranormal story you'd like to share with us. So, this is what tonight's show is all about. So, I'll just hand the show over to you.
Yeah, this one, it's my personal story, and it's harder to tell. Sometimes I get emotional. Most of the time I try to keep myself under control, but I've only told it several, well, maybe three times. I'm going to say
Hmm.
in entirety in three times. And it started, well, let's back up a little bit. My whole life has been paranormal. Always
Oh,
seen
wow.
things, heard things, so it wasn't out of the ordinary for me to maybe see a shadow person or hear somebody speaking who wasn't there. That was just my life, it's just normal. I bought my house in November of 2009, and I'd probably been in my house for a month at that point, and it was like you would walk down the hallway, like there's a bathroom at the end of the hallway. You start walking, and then you'll hear somebody walking right with you. You stop, they stop. And that's how it all began. And I'm thinking, oh, well, that's just me. It's happened all my life. Maybe I've got some friends that follow me along. I don't know. And then it got to be where I would hear cabinets shutting and opening in my kitchen. And then it seemed like when I was in my bedroom trying to sleep, it'd be a party going on out in my living room. So finally, one night I went out there and I opened my bedroom door and I'm yelling out in the living room, I don't care what you're doing out here, just be quiet. I'm trying to sleep, you know. And it quieted down from there. I mean, but strange things were happening. Um, I had my last daughter, 2010. And as she was growing up, 1 or 2 years old, she'd look off into a corner, and do the wave. And then she'd just talk to strange things that you couldn't see.
Mm,
I didn't think anything about it at the time.
wow.
But as she grew older, 6, 7 years old, it got to be, Mom, did you just go in the kitchen? I'm like, no, honey, I'm sitting right here in the dining room at the dining room table. She's like, I just saw somebody go in the kitchen. I thought it was you. Now, my my home is open from the dining room to the living room into the kitchen. They're all open. There's no walls. And she goes, I thought you walked in there. I said, no, I didn't. She goes, oh, okay. So I knew right then, I said, oh, I might have another one just like me.
It got
And
passed on. Oh.
yeah, yeah. And it has. That comes along with the story. Uh, so then my dad would come up to the house, when I first bought it, and it has a 3-car garage. Well, he had claimed the very last bay for himself. He goes, this is my garage. He says, when I come up here, that is my garage. So I always kept it pretty clean for him, and so he could park his vehicle in there or do whatever he wanted,
Sure.
whatever.
Man
And
cave.
yeah, and he lived about 70 miles south from me, so he would come up, and perhaps stay the night, or he would see some friends, whatever, um, which was pretty cool. He ended up passing away in 2013.
Oh.
Now, in 2013, everything was pretty quiet. Um, my dad was cremated, and I brought his remains home with me. And I went down south and I picked up his remains. I buckled them in the car. We played music. I talked to him all the way home. And, when I got him home, I set him up there and I talked to him all the time. I'll ask him all kinds of questions in the morning. Um, and like I was talking about with the keys, I was in a rush. I lost my keys. And I was like, where's my keys? Where are my keys? And I'm getting in a panic. I hate being late for work.
Mm-hmm.
Then I heard my dad's voice say, Brandi, they're on the table.
Wow.
Just heard him plain as day. So I'm like, yep, there they are. And I'm like, thanks, Dad. And I pick up my keys and I go to work. And little things like these have been happening at this whole time. Well, in 2020, my oldest brother contracted COVID very early on, and
sorry.
he got the bad stuff. And
Oh, wow.
he ended up moving in with me because it really played a big role in the decline of his physical being. Let's just go with that. There's many things.
Sure.
And when he moved in with me, so my mom could take care of him and I could work and take care of him. His only son, decided he was going to move in with us. I'm like, okay, come on. The more the merrier. We're all here. Let's go. He This is where it gets difficult.
Okay, take your time.
Yeah, in November of 2020, as my brother felt better, the two of them moved out and got a house, and they were doing really well.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 months later, in January of 2021, my nephew passed away in a one-car accident, a single-car accident.
Sorry.
Right. And it was pretty close to here. I would say somewhere 12 to 16 miles. It wasn't very far from here. And that was just very heart-wrenching.
Oh, absolutely.
And
it had to
yeah,
be.
it's been really crazy. And you don't know how you're going to deal with that. He was 21 years old.
So
And
young.
it's very, very difficult, and I'm like, he just moved out 2 months ago. He just moved out. So we started going through that, and as things went on, we would find things of his, this, that, or the other, and it'd make you smile. You're just like, yeah,
Yeah.
that
A
was
good
his.
life.
Right, right. Well, I'm gonna say about January, February, about March, things started happening, doing little things. I would start hearing knocks. There would be faint talking down the hallways. You would hear somebody just walking around, and it had been pretty quiet for a while. And then it just started picking up.
Wow.
And then my daughter was telling me that she was seeing a shadow figure that was about a little over 6 foot tall. Now, my nephew was very tall, so he was over 6 foot tall. So I'm like, oh, you did? She says, yeah. She goes, everywhere. She goes, I'll go to my friend's house. I'll be here. And she goes, you want to know the funny thing? And I said, what's that, honey? She said, you know, when I lay down on my back on the bed and like I'm playing on my phone or whatever, she goes, I felt somebody come and sit on my legs. My
Oh.
nephew used to do that to her all the time. He would go in her
Wow.
room when he lived here and he would sit on her legs just to annoy her,
Mm.
you know,
Wow.
just to mess with her. And that was pretty difficult.
Oh, sure.
We then had I was in my bedroom one night, and I have my office that I'm in. There's actually a window here. They built on this garage, but there's a window in here, and you can see out into the garage. But I have it covered with blinds,
Okay.
and I'm looking at it. I don't know why, but I'm looking at it. Next thing you know, the light starts flicking on and off in the garage. I mean, just on, off, off. It just kept
Mm.
going and going and going. And then I figured out that it's not the overhead light because those are super bright.
Sure. Hmm.
It was in the third bay that we were talking about earlier. The third bay of my garage where my
Hmm.
dad had claimed was his.
The man cave. Yeah.
Right. The light that would come on when you open the garage door was flickering on and off, on and off, on and off. So I'm like, okay. I went and got my mom.
Oh, I'm
Because my
sure.
my
Yeah.
yeah, because my mom had moved in with me after my dad had passed, and I went and got my mom, and we're sitting on my bed and we're looking through this window, and we're like, "That's crazy. What's going on?" And as soon as I went out there, it stopped. So another time, my mom and my daughter, they had went. I forgot where they had went. It just leaves my mind right now. But they had went on a little vacation, and they were gone for a few days, and it
Hmm.
was just me in the house. I had to work. Again, in the middle of the night, I opened my eyes, and there it is again. The lights blinking on and off, on and off,
Ooh.
on and off. I'm in the house by myself, and I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. So I'm getting up. This time, I'm thinking I grabbed my phone. So I'm actually videoing this with the lights going on and off. And it was just my adrenaline started pumping, and I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. It's just like, what is going on? And finally I got my robe on, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go out in the garage, and I'm just, doing the deep breath, like,
Well, sure.
okay, let's do it, let's do it. So I walk out there. As soon as I open the door, it stops. It doesn't do it anymore at all.
Just for you going out there.
Just
Wow.
going out there and opening the door. Now I'm gonna back up
Oh
just a
my.
little bit. I'm just gonna back up just a
Please.
hair.
Yes.
My nephew smoked, and my mother is a cancer survivor, so
Oh, that's
uh,
good to hear.
we don't smoke out there in the house.
Sure.
So he would go out in the garage. Well, I used to get onto him all the time because he would turn on the entire garage lights, which I was talking about are so bright. I told him, I said, grab a chair, go down to that third bay, and just kick on the light down there. And I said, it's no problem.
You done?
So
Yeah.
that's where he would go and play on his phone, talk to his friends, smoke cigarettes, do whatever. But that was his little place next to my vehicle. And but when I went out there this time, when the lights are going on and off. I walk out and they stop. I'm videoing the whole thing. I went over to the wall where you can manually push the buttons to turn the lights on. And on that bay, I have the electricity completely shut off.
Oh.
There's no electricity because I hadn't used that bay because I keep my Jeep in it and I drive that, mostly in bad weather or rainy weather or just when I need another vehicle. I'll drive that. But most of the time it's garage kept. So I'll just keep the electricity off. There's no reason to have it on. And it was off. So I'm like, okay.
And it still happened. Wow.
And it still happened. Now another time, I'm laying in bed and I see my curtain move. And I'm like, okay. And I'm looking at it and looking at it. So I grab my phone and I start videotaping it. And you can watch it just kind of quiver just a little bit. And I'm thinking, okay, that must be the air or something. But I'm like, wait, I don't even have a fan on that's even pointed in that direction. It's in the bathroom, which is way away from where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, okay, could be airflow, could be something. I'm not sure. But then I watched the curtain just jerk.
Ooh.
It jerked. And I thought, okay, that's something's happening here. So again, I went and got my mom. I went and got my mom. I was like, Mom.
Your mom's your best friend, isn't she?
Yeah. Well, thanks to her, I never felt odd growing up.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. The paranormal was normal. So she never made me feel odd. So when these things happen, we go grab each other. We're like, hey, we understand.
Help me.
So I went in and I showed her the video and I'm like, well, what's happening? So we're trying to figure out, okay, was it the air that kicked on or the heat that kicked on at the time? Was it the heat that kicked on? Was it possibly a different kind of airflow? Da 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 da. So I'm having her move. I'm staying in the same spot. I'm laying in bed and she's moving around. When she moved in front of the window where the curtain was, then it jerked.
Oh.
So somebody had to have been standing right there to disrupt the airflow to make it jerk. But nobody was there.
Nobody was there.
No.
Oh,
she had to do it, so I seen her to where it just did that little jerk because of the airflow. Yeah. And I'm like, but Mom, nobody was standing there. She goes, oh, yes, there was.
Oh, yeah. There was somebody there. Wow.
Yes, there was. So, wow. There's a whole bunch of things that, like that are happening. And I'll move up to recently because these are getting kind of weird. So I'm driving to work and I go fairly early in the morning and it's like 4:30 in the morning and I'm on my way to work. Well, I have to drive into town, go through town, and then hit the highway because I live in a rural area out here, and I have like 5 houses on my street. So it's gravel, and
you're way out in the country.
Yeah, it's a county road, so we're out here. So I'm driving in, and I come up to the first main road, and there's no restaurants that are, I would say, open right there. Once I turn the corner, there's nothing there that's open. I mean, we have McDonald's and a Taco Bell, but they're over there, and I'm driving the opposite way. And then all of a sudden, I see a shadow start coming up to the road, and it's coming almost to the street light where you could see it, almost, but I could see it coming. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I hope they don't get out in the middle of the road. And so I look back at the road to make sure I'm staying on the road. I look back, the figure is completely gone. Now, there are no houses that are close to the road where it could have ducked behind or a tree or a bush. It's completely clear because there's a big ditch. And the ditch was full of water, so I couldn't imagine anybody going into that. And the figure was gone. But right at that second that I looked back and saw that the figure was gone, I had a smell of, it was burning oil. Like you've heated vegetable oil to the point where it's going to burn in the pan. Mm-hmm. It was that pungent kind of oil smell. And I smelled that for probably about a quarter mile to a half mile. And then it just stopped. It was gone. there was just no more smell. It was completely gone. And I'm like, there's no restaurants. There's nothing there that would use grease like that. I don't understand. So I'm like, okay. So that weekend, Krista from Blondes and Booze also, we were on our way to Michigan, and we left on Thursday. So we had a friend with us, Letitia Nunley. She was with us, and I drove separately from them. But when I got to Michigan, and they got there late that night, everything was good, and we were having a good time. Well, the next day, we checked into separate rooms. Um, because we left early for a snowstorm. Let me just clarify. We
Okay.
we left early, and then so we got a room that night together, and then the next night we got the rooms that we had originally got. So her our friend Letitia was having issues because things were dropping in their hotel room in the middle of the night, and they couldn't figure out where it was coming from. They couldn't find what fell or what made the sound, but it was dropping inside the room.
Wow.
So Krista, being Krista, is just like, oh well, it's probably paranormal. I'm going back to sleep. I'm tired. I'm going back
Exactly.
to sleep.
Nonchalant. Yeah.
Right. But me, on the other hand, I had the best night's sleep I've had in a very long time. So I'm like, oh, this is cool. So Letitia was kidding, and she's like, I think I'm going to come sleep in your room. I said, well, come on if you want to. I said, I had a great night's sleep. So everything went fine, and but they had a little paranormal hiccups in there. And then on
Wow.
Sunday, we all went home. So I get home that night, and I lay down, and that time right when your body just relaxes and you're ready to sleep. You got your eyes closed, you're relaxed, and you could drift off at any
You're
second.
ready to go. Yep.
Yeah, I was there. I was there. And then all of a sudden I heard a male voice, plain as day, not in my head. It was in my ear. Now, I'll explain that in a minute. But it said Brandi.
Ooh.
Just said my name, clear as a bell. And I was
man.
like, are you serious? I just was going to sleep. Now I'm going to be awake for hours.
Yeah. Oh,
What's the matter?
That's out of the question. Yeah.
It's kind of like, what's wrong with you? So, when I mean that, I mean sometimes I hear voices in my head, and I don't know if that is spirit guides or if that's intuition, or it's just your common sense talking to you. You just don't know. It's like, but I heard this with my ears. It's kind of like when I see things with my eyes. It's not a vision in my head. It's actually seeing them with your eyes, like I'm seeing you right now.
Wow. So you can actually materialize it, I guess you could say.
Yeah, you can actually, like, some people can visualize what something's trying to tell them in their head. Like, say you're reading a book, you're reading a really good book, and you drift away from reality, and you're totally in this book, like you feel like you're right in the book. You're visualizing what it looks like. That's kind of what I'm talking about there. But
Wow.
this is just, it's just really crazy. So just a couple weeks ago, okay, I'm on my way to work. Now I get up at the witching hour.
Like we all do.
Surprise, surprise. I get up at the witching hour. I get ready to go to work. It's about 10 after 4. I'm going out to my vehicle, and at the end is where my Jeep is parked in the third bay. I see over a 6-foot tall shadow person walking from the front of my Jeep to the end of my Jeep, and then it's gone.
Ooh. Oh, wow.
And then it's gone. And my brother was here a few months ago, and he was doing some plumbing work, and then we had some other people coming in doing some plumbing work. And when all that stuff was going on and having, different people in the house, there was an uptick also in activity. It's like there was more foot stomps. There was more knocks on the wall. It sounded like somebody was walking in my attic. I don't have an attic.
Oh, no. Wow.
Yeah. It didn't. It sounded like they were walking right on my ceiling, because you can't stand up in the little crawl space that I have up there. But it sounded like somebody was walking around right there. My mom said that she's heard like knocks going down the hallway on her part of the house. There's knocks going down the hallway. Um, you know, and you always get that feeling of somebody's there. They're staring at you. That like, what are you looking at me for kind of thing. It's just like, is there something wrong with me? Is my hair bad? What's going on? You know, but you do get that in my house. Um, we've we've had this been going on, but I mean, for me and my mom, this is our whole lives. It's in our family. It's
Hmm.
normal, but it's weird that I'm seeing more than I ever have now. That I can remember. Now, as a child, I don't know. My mom said,
Sure.
that we were always talking to people that weren't there. So, but I
Who
can't remember
knows?
that. Right. But in my own home, you get to the point where, is enough enough? Do you cleanse your house? Do you sage your house? Do you get rid of it? What do you do?
Well,
What
let
do
me
you
ask you
do?
this, Brandy. Do you think it's the house, or do you think you are and for lack of a better term, a portal? Maybe if I could say,
I
or
think
do you think
I'm
that
just
you are both?
I'm,
Maybe
I'm a magnet. I'm gonna say a magnet. We're
magnet.
gonna go with
Okay.
that. I'm gonna be a magnet. Because my light's on, and that's basically what we call it. When you have your we call it the paranormal third eye, your intuition eye, your it's like you can see things that other people can't. I'm open to it, so I do see a lot of things. I see them at work sometimes, uh, in Walmart sometimes. I hear people talking next to me that are not there. It's all these things. I did the history check on this house. The people who built this house in 1984 are still alive.
Oh,
Nobody has died on this property.
nothing's
Nobody,
happened.
nothing has ever happened on this property that I can find records for. Now, that doesn't mean that nothing ever did. It's just nothing that I could ever find,
That you
which
can
went back
find.
about, yeah, which went back about 100 years, that I could find.
We got a question from the audience for you, actually,
Hmm.
Brandy. I'll read it to you.
Sure.
Tex is actually asking Brandy, have you ever tried knocking back, like doing part of a shave and a haircut, and seeing if the entity finishes the tune like pop, 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 pop? You ever do that?
I do. I do.
Do they
Believe it or
knock
not,
back?
I
That's the.
do. I've actually had them knocked back a couple times, not in the house.
Oh,
Um,
really?
Not in the house. It just seems like I don't want to open that can of worms in my house because it seems like
You're inviting them, right?
yes, when you start communicating, you start inviting them, and it's like I've got enough people. It's just, I do talk to them every now and again, like, hey, it's time to be quiet. You know,
Mm-hmm.
my room is my safe space, and I make my intent very clear that you leave me alone in this room. This is my space. The bedrooms and the bathrooms are off limits. You can play out in the living room, the garage, outside. I don't care. But the bed, the girls in my house are going to be safe,
Sure,
and they're
absolutely.
and they're going to feel comfortable. Um, and then, when I had that voice in my ear, that's when I started questioning. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. So it's I have talked to them to the point of, you need to stay out of here. I don't want you in here. You need to leave. And very firm in what I'm trying to tell them. It's just because like I said, I want to feel safe in my room. It is my peace. This is where I find my peace. This is where I breathe easily. All the
Sure.
anxieties of the day and the tension it all goes away. This is my safe spot.
Yeah,
And I try
your
to
castle.
maintain that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to maintain that for everyone in my family, which is my mom and my daughter, my youngest daughter, should I say, my youngest daughter who's still at home. And I try to maintain that. So I do get pretty firm, and I do get a little mouthy sometimes.
You
You know,
never.
I do get a little upset, especially when my daughter says, "Well, hey, this is happening." So then I have to
Absolutely.
go, I go and I talk, but I do not try to communicate. I don't ask them yes or no questions. I don't try to figure out who it is. I just let my intentions be known that this spot, this space is not for you.
You're home for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, you can go play in the living room, but just not in my bedroom.
Yeah. Well, I told you the story that I told before the show started
Yes.
about the cemetery, and I have not told this story on my webcast or any other webcast. And I'll let you be the judge, Randy, and I'll let my audience. I mean, really, I'd like to hear their opinion on this.
Absolutely.
Reader's Digest version. Back when I graduated high school, I worked for a local department store, and there was an elderly lady that came in the store, and she was looking for a punch bowl because it was going to be her 50th wedding anniversary. Well, the display with the punch bowls was gone. She asked a salesman, but he kind of blew her off, didn't help her. Hey, if they're not here, we don't have them. And I overheard the conversation, and I'm thinking, this is her 50th wedding anniversary. So I said, ma'am, if you'll wait, I'm going to look in the back and see if they're in the stock room. Lo and behold, I found it. So I brought it to her. She was so happy. Again, a long story short, she introduced me to the church. She was a wonderful woman, just like everybody's grandmother. She was very well liked. Just wanted to get to know you. Unfortunately, she passed away about a year and a half before I made that commitment to the church. Went to her funeral. Even though I hadn't known her very long, it devastated me because she was just such one of those one of a kind, positive people you want to be around.
Right.
But she lived a very good life. Well,
right.
Later on, that was in 1988 when she passed away. Okay, fast forward 2018, 30 years later, I happen to remember that. I'm like, you know what? I have not been to that cemetery since that lady died, and I need to do something, pay some kind of tribute, to her for what she did for me and my spiritual walk. So I bought some little roses, and I went to the cemetery. But I had not been to that cemetery in 30 years, and I didn't remember where she was buried. There are several sections of it. And I went through the entire cemetery, up, down, rows, back, front. And I was just looking and looking. I'm like, I don't know where it's at. And about 10 or 15 minutes of looking, I kind of mouthed to myself. I don't know if I was talking to myself or talking to anybody that was out there.
Right,
I'm like, I'm looking for this woman. I gave her a name. And I said, I don't know where it's at. Well, 15, 20 minutes later, I'm disappointed. I'm like, well, I don't know where it's at. And I just kind of looked up in the sky, and I said her name. I said, well, I remember you. This was the day that you were spiritually free, and thank you for all you did. But I turned around to go down a dirt road to my car. And I had just turned around, and I can't say it was a voice. I don't remember hearing a voice. But it was like something to tell me, hey, turn around and go to that corner of the cemetery on the very far side near the fence. I'm like, well, what else I got to lose? I'm like, okay, I'll look one more time, and just see. I walk down the little path. I'm getting chill bumps. Just as you expect, that little section by a big tree near the fence, there was her grave.
That's amazing.
And I put the little flowers
amazing.
down. Something was just drawing me to that grave, and I went right to it. So was it her? Was it some of the spirits in the cemetery? Was it just coincidence? I like to think it was just something or somebody drawing me back.
Yeah, it's kind of like what I said. Somebody heard you. Somebody heard you talking, and they wanted to steer you in the direction so you didn't leave without going to see her. That's what I believe.
That was a touching story because I was like, wow, yeah.
Because a cemetery in 30 years
mm-hmm.
can change dramatically, as we all know. So a tree that might have been there 30 years ago may not be there today. And it's amazing that you found it.
And I went right to it. I mean, it was on the far side. It wasn't like right there off the dirt road. There was like a little, I guess, sectioned off, where this tree was. And there was her husband, there was some of her other people there. I went right to it. And I can't explain, after 15, 20 minutes of looking and getting a little upset and just, again, I said it out loud. Maybe something or somebody was here to her. And I even said her name. I'm looking for this person right here. And after about 20 minutes of doing that and just finally giving up and being disappointed, I was turning around. And again, I don't remember it being a voice. But it was just, you know how you get a sense?
A feeling, yeah.
Someone said, or I felt like, check that. It's like, check that section right there, back there towards the fence. And Brandi, I walked right to it. And it was right there. I dropped the little flowers there. So there's was one of my experiences anyway. But that's a pleasant experience. So.
Yeah. Somebody heard you, and they didn't want you to go. You know, they wanted you to see her, or she was like, "Hey, I'm over here."
Could be.
It's like I'm right here. Oh, that's
so that was a good experience. I've had that, and I told you a story prior. The house I used to live in.
Yes.
And I'll make that brief because I want to hear more of your stories too. But there was a house I was living in my hometown, an older house that was built in 1919. And the elderly man that lived next door knew the man that had once lived there that had since passed on. And I don't say that I was ever scared, but you know how you feel like when there's something or somebody there. There's something there. You can't put your finger on it. Yes. I hear little noises and everything.
Yes.
And so, but I knew about how old this guy was, when he was raised. I thought, you know what? He was probably raised in the big band era, like the 1940s, maybe early 1950s, the hit parade. So luckily, my family has, and I still have a whole set of this big band music, this Time Life, It's nothing from every year, 40, 41, 42, 43. It's like an hour and a half of music on one CD. So I thought, you know what? I want to try an experiment here. Before I would go to bed every night, I had a CD player in the kitchen. You could play a CD, but once the CD finished playing, the CD player would shut itself off. So right before going to bed, I'd have that CD player in the kitchen. I wouldn't have it very loud. I'd play one of those big band CDs. It would just start up on its own. I'd go to bed. I did that for weeks. And for lack of a better word, Brandi, I felt the house was like at peace. I didn't hear the noise anymore. I didn't feel maybe kind of uneasy. Maybe he or whatever or whoever was there liked the music that I was doing that for them. But I would play it every night. I'd get up the next day, the CD player was out, but it felt like, for lack of a better word, the dust settled.
Right.
So, I don't know. I can't explain that either.
Right. Did you do any history on the house to find out, anything else about it, or?
It was built in 1919, and this guy, his first name was Bill, he actually added on to the house. He built another bedroom and another bathroom onto the house. Mm-hmm. And I told you this story right when I left the house, and I hated leaving that little old house. It was a lot of history behind it. But I cleaned it, and I was just renting it, by the way. But right before I left, I addressed him before I closed the door for the last time. I said, Bill, I don't know my exact words, but Bill, I appreciate you letting me live in your house. You built a wonderful house here. I hope the next people that live here that you like as well. Left the key on the mantle of this house, closed the front door, and I had a camera on my car. I want to take just a still picture of me standing on the porch one more time.
Right.
A house built in 1919. How often do you get to do that? So
right.
I put it on a timer, and I took a picture, and it flashed. I went to my new house. I looked at it, and you can see me clearly standing on the porch, but right around my head, there's an orb. And I've wondered, is that the guy telling me goodbye? Is that something else? Dust on the camera? Well, I'll leave it up to you, Brandi. What do you think?
Well, that could be, several things. What I'm thinking is that maybe he was standing behind you.
Really?
That's what I'm thinking.
Behind me, not in front of me. Okay.
Mm-mm. No, he's standing behind you, and that could have cast that glow. Or, there's so many things. There's so many unknown things to, gosh. Like I was telling you earlier, it could have been an aura, your aura. It could have been all kinds of things that you could have caught. But did it look like I want to call it a ghostly white, like a misty type, or was it?
It wasn't a ghostly white. No, it was mostly clear. And I wish I had the picture with me. I have to show it to you later. I'll show it to my
Yes,
audience, but it's mostly no. I didn't see it whitish or anything, but you could tell it's definitely a circle.
it's
And I'm
definitely there.
standing off. You can see me from head to toe on this porch. So the pictures it's a wide angle, but just on my head it's a large circle. And then, but I did have someone ask me and said, "Now, Bob, when you left that house, did you feel nauseous or sick at your stomach?" And I thought,
Hmm.
no, what does that have to do with it? But according to this person, it may not be right, but he said, if you felt sick at your stomach, then something or somebody attached itself to you and went with you. I said, but I didn't feel that way at all. I felt at peace. And like, well, maybe that was Bill or whoever saying goodbye, good luck.
Bye. Yeah, yeah. That's the only way they could show you in a picture. Hey, I'm
Yeah.
here.
So there's my story. Now I have some haunting, very scary stories, but we've told that one. So you got any more stories for us too, Brandy?
Well, I have lots of stories, but they take a long time, and we are running out of time. So let's not do those. We'll have to do it
Okay.
another time.
So well, we kind of have. I want to do another public service announcement
Oh yes, yeah. You said
because
you want to do that.
we talked about well, not so much the channel about what to do and what not to do.
Yes.
Now everybody knows my paranormal story, my horrifying paranormal story. So, but to not because we are short on time, but I will just say this: when I was 22 years old, I used a Ouija board alone and was trying to contact somebody, a certain somebody who had lived in the place that I lived in before. And as you've heard this story before, things turned out very sour very quickly. So now I'll hand it over to you, Brandy. Uh, Name
You
everything I
already
did
seen me
wrong.
shaking my head. You already seen me shaking my head.
Was the first thing of
No.
using a Ouija board or using the Ouija board alone? What would you call?
Uh,
Or trying to get a hold of somebody?
First of all, never ever use it alone. Never, never use it alone. Make sure that when you do use it, you're clear on intent, meaning when you open the door for communication, I don't care if you're using a pendulum, a spirit box, whatever way you want to communicate, you make it clear that you're opening it to communicate only. And then when you are done, you close it and you tell them, I am closing the door to everything, including communication. So it's kind of like you have to put your intent on that, or you're basically just leaving a door open, a
Hmm.
portal, if you will. You're opening a door and you're just leaving it open. So anything can go in and out at any given time, which that leads to bad things happening.
That's what happened.
Yeah, that's why I was shaking my head at you. I'm like, don't tell me that.
Now, when you use a Ouija board, like I said, now again, we know that I did it wrong by using it alone and not
Hmm.
closing it.
Hmm.
But is it true? Like the guy that I was trying to contact from this apartment years ago, his first name was Robert. But
Hmm.
now, is it true that just because you try to contact somebody, it may not be that person that comes through?
That is absolutely correct.
Okay.
Some will tell you they're anybody you want to talk to. You could open the door to your board and you say, "Hey, I'm looking for Robert," da 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 da, and then the next thing you know, it spells out Robert because they already know
Who
who
you're
you're
looking
looking
for?
for. And yeah, exactly. And any time that you're using a spirit box or anything, you don't really know who you're talking to. You're hoping you're talking to the right person, but you never know. So that's always good to set your intent from the very beginning that this is only for communication. And these things that we use to communicate are not bad things. It's just you have to know how to use them properly. Absolutely. Because if you even if you do what I do and I'm standing in the middle of a room and I'm saying hello, is there anyone here? That is still opening the line of communication,
Even
believe it or
without the
not,
board?
even without the board.
Wow.
Yes. If you are acknowledging their presence, you are opening the door. So you just kind of have to, like I said, you have to be firm. And what we like to say is we armor ourselves with the Spirit of God. So we have our spiritual armor on as
Hmm.
we're doing this. So we know that we're safe, we're good, but we also know our limits. We're not going to step over our boundaries, we're not going to provoke, we're not going to do anything like that because we're not there to provoke. Because if we're talking to the spirits that that we're hoping we're talking to, these were real people too. They had lives, they had families. They want
Absolutely.
respect. Yeah, they want respect too. So speak to them as such, and you'll get a lot better results.
And I will tell everybody, those that haven't heard the story, I think most everybody has, but basically what happened, this man that I was trying to contact who had passed away, Robert, that isn't what came through. It was a demon. And luckily, there was a psychic that came in and proverbially closed the door on
Hmm.
that. And so I've been very leery about touching them since. So yeah,
Right,
because it was really horrifying, But
right,
again, using it alone, yeah, that was. But when you're 21, 22, oh, this would be fun. It's not a
right,
game. Yeah,
right,
wasn't very fun after a while.
right. Yeah, like I said before, my mom, showed me the way. We'll just go with that. She showed me the way. She showed me how to do things correctly and not to leave anything, what we say, quote unquote, undone. So just remember, if you open it, you close it.
Okay. Well, for the people maybe that are watching this, whether tonight or later on, we know, most people, everybody knows what a Ouija board is, but we've also heard the term spirit box. Can you kind of explain that a little bit more and differences between the two?
Yeah, a spirit box, what it does is, well, okay, let me start from the very beginning with that one because then you'll understand. Frank
Okay.
Sumption created a box that would work on shortwaves radio, and it'd sweep through radio stations. What he meant to do is to put radio waves out into the atmosphere to actually speak with aliens. Now, at some point, Frank Sumption realized that he is actually speaking to the dead through these boxes. So the
Wow.
spirit box was born. So
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
Frank Sumption, yes, Frank Sumption is the man who created the spirit box. You can still find they're very rare, and I know somebody who has a few of them, but there are Frank's boxes that are still out there. There's not many. And when he made them and he sold them, they're numbered. And
Oh, wow.
there's not very many out there in existence. And all they are their boxes with the transistor and all that stuff inside of it. But it's put together so crudely. It's weird. It just looks like a box and some wires. You're just like, okay. And it's got numbers on it and it actually works. And I actually got to use one at one time and got great results.
I was going to ask you if you got good results on that.
I
Wow.
did. I did.
Did you get
I
just one or
actually
did you
did.
get multiple
I
voices
got
or spirit?
multiple. I got multiple.
Oh, but I
Yes.
hope you've taped that. I hope you filmed that or something.
Um, I had friends. I had two friends that were back behind me. They couldn't see my face or anything. All they could hear was the spirit box,
Hmm.
and they were transcribing what they were hearing. So they were writing down everything that they were hearing, and they both came up with the same thing.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was really awesome. So yeah, I mean, the Frank's box has now turned into what they sell today, the SB11, the
Hmm.
SB7, or a lot of people are making spirit boxes in their homes and things like that. But that's where it all came from. Yeah.
You told me something I didn't know. See, I told you learn everything on the variety show. So,
You'll learn something. I don't care where I go, I'm learning something.
well, Brand, I want to display your channel once again to our audience. Ladies and gentlemen, I would highly, highly recommend you go to this YouTube channel, subscribe just like I have, Blondes and Boos Paranormal Podcast. And tell us once again, Brandi, when are you on? When are your shows?
Yes, we're on of course, only on our channel. We're on Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Central, and Fridays, 8 p.m. Central.
So if you want to have some, and I would I'm telling my audience, if you have a spiritual story you'd like to tell, I'm sure Blondes and Boos would love to hear from you,
Oh,
wouldn't you?
yes, absolutely. We love hear. Yeah, hey, we don't even care if it's a cryptid story, a UF story. We'll hear it all. Just, email us at blondesandboos@gmail.com. And hey, we'll get back to you as soon as we can. I promise you, because we love all those stories.
Okay. Well, Brandi, I thank you so much for being on the show tonight. It's been a
Thank you.
pleasure. I've learned a lot
I've
too.
had fun. I've
And
had a
let's
lot
do
of
it
fun.
again.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Have a good night.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everyone. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for tonight's episode of the Van Buren Variety Show. Just a reminder, I am on the air every Tuesday live, and that's at 7 p.m. Central Time and 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So please subscribe. And again, I want to say it again. If you like tonight's guest and you like tonight's topic, there is that like button. And if you have a question for Brandi, even if you're not watching this live, leave a comment there now. I'll make sure she sees it. And again, check out her wonderful, wonderful show, Blondes and Boos Paranormal Podcast. Again, I want to also encourage you to go to Texas Front Porch for all the best news on Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Dogman, spirits too. So they've got it all there. And thank you so much, Tex, and to Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, Jason, Brandi, all of y'all for letting me simulcast. But thank you so much. And for those of you that are coming over here from Texas Front Porch, I appreciate that. But make sure you subscribe to all the channels mentioned tonight. So that'll be all from me tonight. And I got one more announcement. Next week, exactly a week from today, is Independence Day, USA. I'm going to spend some time with my family. We're going to watch some fireworks. So next week's Van Buren show will not be on Tuesday night. It'll be on a Wednesday night, which works out perfect because I have a musical guest coming on. He couldn't come on July 4th either. So remember, Van Buren Variety is next week at 7 o'clock Wednesday, and then we'll be back to our regular Tuesday show. So if I don't talk to you before then, happy Independence Day, everybody. Hope you wear your stars and stripes. And this is Bob Van Buren for the Van Buren Variety Show. I will see y'all next Wednesday. Have a great night, everybody.